Okay, so I have been meaning to do some kind of, I like it's a reactions don't work for me, so I have been meaning to do some kind of thing for a long time now. Some kind of explanation of why I loved The Last Jedi, because I loved it when I saw it. I haven't watched it a bunch of times lately, but I meant to go through and do it and, get my coffee and all that stuff. And I didn't know if I should, like, do a commentary or what. But even, like, the last week or so, I was like, I really need to do some kind of explanation because there's too many people who hate that movie. I don't completely understand why. I have some vague idea. But for that year, I forget what year it was now, a few years ago, it was my favorite movie that year. I see a lot of movies, and I mean, I was a little kid Star Wars fan. I went to the movie. I mean, I don't think it was the first movie I saw in the movie theater. That might have been Freaky Friday. Those two movies were like very early in my life. um, but I was like 4. I remember thinking I was 4 when I saw Star Wars in the theater, and I would have turned 4 at the end of 1977. So I know the movie ran for a really long time. So I don't know if it was a second run but I saw it and it was warm out. So that's why I'm kind of like, I don't know if it was a second run or not. But anyway, I grew up, a Star Wars kid. I watched the movies a million times when they came on TV. I would watch them over and over and over again. I didn't buy things. We never really had a lot of money, so I didn't buy a lot of stuff. Like, I didn't buy any of the action figures or any of that stuff. I just watched the movies over and over and over. And, so I didn't have an encyclopedia type knowledge of all the characters and all the stuff and all the books on the side. I read, like, a few of the books later on, like the Timothy Zahn books. But those 3 that came after, and for some reason, I remember Splinter of the Mind's Eye because I noticed in this movie a reference to it, and I was surprised. I was like, isn't that from Splinter of the Mind's Eye? But the point is, I lived Star Wars most of my life. I like the prequels a great deal. I wasn't a fan of the Phantom Menace that much. I didn't like it. There was too much CGI, just too much with those, like that droid battle at the end, the battle for Gungus, whatever it was, where this is what I'm saying. I'm not specific. When I watched that a million times too, though, it's just now I can't remember things. But with the droids and the Gungans, that whole big battle, it's like my brain, after a while watching it a few times, my brain would just check out because I was watching a video game because there was no people there, and my brain knew somehow you're not looking at anything real. So and that the pod race very much looked like Bugs Bunny type cartoon, like Roadrunner type cartoon, where they're just going in like that desert type thing over and over again. So again, it was just too much boring CGI and stuff like that. But I really, really liked Attack of the Clones. I liked that it had a film noir type situation. And I really loved Revenge of the Sith. I was going to say Revenge of the Jedi. That's funny. But I really liked Revenge of the Sith. But of those 3, I probably liked Attack of the Clones better. But I really liked all those. I liked, I liked all the actors. I liked Hayden Christensen a lot. I did not like some of the crap he got. I didn't like some of the interpretations people had of the prequel trilogy. But yeah, so I liked everything up to then. Of course, they weren't. It was like, apples and oranges, the prequels and the OT. But what are you gonna do? It was the different time. So George Lucas insisted that he was done. Now, as a kid, like I said, around the time of Return of the Jedi, I must have been like 10. I was in the 6th grade, because I remember I brought Return of the Jedi cookies to the last day of school. But I remember reading in like a kid magazine or something that George Lucas had said he had 9 episodes planned. He had the 3 we'd seen. He had episodes 1, 2, and 3 that he would do next, and then episodes 7, 8, and 9 that he would do in the end, and then, that would continue the Skywalker saga. Now, from what I knew from reading things here and there, in the beginning, the Force was supposed to be hereditary, and it was supposed to run through the Skywalker family. So it was really, in the very, very beginning, it was like a Skywalker family thing. That later on just kind of became hereditary, but I don't think towards the end we were supposed to think that anymore. It was just strong in their family. That's how they said it in the OT, but it didn't mean nobody else had it, That was a weird thing went by. So like I said, I love the OT, and I really like the prequels very much. And then George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney, and I'm not gonna lie, I felt so bad that day. I was sitting there crying. I'm not kidding, because I was like, oh my god, that's like selling your kids. That's like just human trafficking. What is he doing? Why didn't he just make the movies? I don't understand. And I was like, so it just had such a corrupt feeling. I felt really, really bad that day. I really remember going on Ain't It Cool News and just being like, why is he doing this? But it happened. And so I knew that whatever came wouldn't be what I intended to see, that 7, 8, and 9. So I thought he was selling it and people were just going to make new stories. When it came through that he was going to let somebody else make 7, 8, and 9, I was like, but he already had a plan. Whatever they do is not going to be what he had to say. And I wanted to know what he had to say, because, as a little kid, you like all the characters and stuff. I think when I was little, I think my favorite characters are R2-D2. When I wanted to marry Darth Vader when I was like 5, which is ridiculous. But, I understood him. And, of course, everybody likes Leia, Han, all that stuff. You love all the characters, even C-3PO after you watch it long enough, But, of course, Luke is the ideal, and Luke was the, Jedi you wanted to be. And I was never that kind of person who, oh no, I can't do this because a boy did it, or, oh, I can't look up to somebody who doesn't look like, I need somebody who looks like me in order to feel inspired. Ooh, I was never that kind of person, so I was perfectly fine having Luke Skywalker as a role model. And, as I got older, I try to be Yoda-like, because, I was very interested in the Force. And it set a lot of my life onto spiritual topics, and I used to really, I took enough classes to minor in religious studies in college. I just didn't declare a minor, but, I took Buddhism, all that stuff, and I looked into all kinds of different things. And why I'm saying all this is because part of the reason that I love The Last Jedi so much is because over time, I think the Force really became my favorite character in, the Star Wars movies, all of them. And that's what I was most interested in. So, yeah, I would like to become a Jedi, but a Jedi studies the ways of the Force. So, when I was in my 20s, somebody had told me about these books by a man named Carlos Castaneda. I guess the hippies really read these books. And Carlos Castaneda had made these books about being a shaman, and it was like he had gone to Mexico, or he's from Mexico. Yeah, he's from Mexico, I think. But he met medicine man shaman guy who taught him the ways of the warrior, and he became a shaman, basically sorcerer type. And I'm willing to bet, or I think I know, that George Lucas read these books, and you know they ended up being influential on me, and I ended up reading all of them and being interested in all that kind of esoteric, metaphysical, sorcerer type wizard crap, but not in a just, oh, it's Harry Potter books, let's get magic wands. Not, I mean, for real, what people could do in that way, and being a shaman, what that's about. So the time comes, J.J. Abrams makes The Force Awakens. I go see it, and I'm like, for me, he just basically did a retread of, some of the original trilogy. He did, like, he wanted to make money. He was given this property or whatever to deal with. He, because of Star Trek, which I would never watch that anyway. But, and he just basically did a retread. And I sat there and I was like, oh, whatever, this isn't for me. I'm old. I'm from the OT. I'm from the George Lucas era. This is for the younger kids. This is for the kids who their parents told them about Star Wars. You know what I mean? This is not... These are the people who... Maybe for the people who were little when, the prequels came out. So I just said, yeah, it's not for me. Whatever. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but I really wish that it had continued the Skywalker thing the right way, instead of resetting to having an empire and everything all over again, which is crazy. But it's what he did. So when the next one comes out, whoever made that next movie was going to be locked in to, or at least not locked in, but have to deal with the stuff that was in The Force Awakens that I did not like. Real quick about The Force Awakens. Han Solo, that was expected. I wasn't let down or anything, because Harrison Ford, that he was in this at all was amazing, because he had wanted Han to die in Return of the Jedi. Han was supposed to die, I think, but he didn't, and it kind of ticked him off, because he didn't ever want to play Han Solo again. This was known, so that he came back just to die. Like, the character could have died off screen, but I think people would have been let down, but okay. He came back to die. It was his point, and I get that, fine, whatever. So, in that way, it carries on the Skywalker line, but I don't know that that's the way that Lucas would have meant it. And in terms of Rey, at the end of that movie, I assumed that Rey was also going to be a Skywalker. But there was obvious connection being built between her and Kylo. And I don't care if people hate the Reylo thing after, because I don't feel either way about it. It's just that it was being set up. It was being set up that they had a strong connection. It could have been anything. Everything isn't about boinking, You could have, they could have been two halves of a whole in another way. And that's what I was hoping for, because they, like I said, I really liked their connection in, I didn't say it already, in The Last Jedi. But, so, let's go to The Last Jedi. So, Rian Johnson, I had seen Looper. I liked it. So he does this movie, and right out of the gate, the thing I liked was that he did his own thing. He did what the person who had Star Wars should have done in the first place. They should have come in with their own vision, and they should have not done a retread. So the fact that he kind of undid some of the nonsense that J.J. Abrams did was just great, in my opinion. People who liked The Force Awakens should have been pissed, because if you liked it, then of course you wanted to see that continue on. The number one stupid thing that I could not stand was Snoke. Snoke was ugly for no reason, freakish looking, gigantic head thing. And, I said to myself, what the hell is that? You know? So, he's the main villain now, and he sits in a chair. So, when it came to the next movie, and Rian Johnson got rid of him, I almost leapt out of my chair applauding, because he was such a waste of space as far as I'm concerned. Now, what could have been cool, and this is if I was going to change anything, I might have just done away with that big head thing, Snoke, and made him like a hologram, and made it like the great and powerful Oz, and made Snoke, the person, actually be like a man behind the curtain, and just had Andy Serkis, looking like Andy Serkis in some kind of cool outfit, be actual Snoke. Or if I had to have that character at all, I just would have not had that monstrous looking thing in the first place, and it would just had to be Andy Serkis in a cool looking outfit, and it would have been a hell of a lot better. Instead of just having him do the voice. Yeah, okay, Gollum, but he's a good actor. He's not scary looking. He would have been fine, and it would have been cool had he turned out to be. If it had been Andy Serkis looking Snoke, and you could have just made him Rey's father, and everything would have made sense. But anyways, so the parts that I'm not going to go step by step on everything in the Last Jedi, because there's no point. Because, okay, so I didn't think anybody hated The Last Jedi. And then I started hearing that, oh, it's this, it's that, it's the other thing. And it seemed to have come along with Mark Hamill hating on it. And it's weird to be maybe not the lead actor in your movie, but it's your death knell movie. It's your swan song. And you're coming out against it after you were in it. And this is my thing with Mark Hamill. I guess it was after A New Hope. He had been in some kind of accident, a car accident, something like that, and everything was really bad, and so he looked different, after. And I don't know if it affected him in any other way, but I know that after that, there was something about his acting, like he was leering all the time, just leering, and like, so where his acting is concerned, I've always been like, yeah, okay. Because there's something about him where it's just something's not completely right. Like he looks aggravated all the time. So I just allow for that. So in The Last Jedi, in the beginning, when he throws away the lightsaber, and I know that put a lot of people off. At first, when I saw it, I was like, well, that's just, Mark Hamill. Then later on, hearing how disgruntled he was, I'm like, okay, then maybe that's Mark Hamill with a bad attitude. Now, if your lead actor is, in his mind, is protesting the film he's in, I don't like this, I don't want to do this, I don't agree with it, he's going to telegraph, oh, this is stupid, I don't want to be doing this. So if he's has that attitude as he's throwing that lightsaber, as he's dealing with everything in the movie, then it's going to make people, it's going to register with people. They're going to feel like, oh, this is stupid. If he's sitting there thinking, oh, this is stupid while he's in the scene, then, you know what I mean? So some of those scenes in the beginning with her and, the blue milk and everything, if he wanted to sell it, he would have, because like he said years and years ago, they were acting against trash cans. But you had to sell it. You had to believe it, because if you don't believe it, then the audience isn't going to believe it. So maybe to some degree, he didn't believe it, and the audience was picking up on that, but I just dismissed it as, oh, that's Mark Hamill's acting the way he is now, you know. So it's weird to love the character and think the actor's just half-assing it. If he is, you know, he could have been meaning to do it perfect or whatever, but in my opinion, people probably picked up on some issue he had with it, where he's like, this isn't real, this isn't right, this is wrong. And I don't understand that, because I thought that Luke Skywalker's ending, you know, I gotta do two. Ending was, I thought it was perfect. I thought it was brilliant. I loved it. And the thing is, I mean, there's no endings. Nothing ever dies. I mean, that's that's the point. So anybody who got disgruntled with that ending, that was the last time we're going to see Luke Skywalker. Of course not. Of course he could come back as a Force ghost. Why wouldn't he? Especially the way the ending happened. Now, here's why I brought up all that other stuff. With, like I said, the shamanism, the books, the Carlos Castaneda books, there's even other books, like, there's another book, The Four Agreements, that, some people like. I kind of think of it as a Cliff Notes version of those other books. I know Tom Brady said he reads that book every year, The Four Agreements. It's basically the same sort of thing, but like a truncated version of the stuff that Carlos Castaneda did. Anyway, so when you read those books, there's things like remote viewing and lucid dreaming, and you know, I forgot the word for it, but like, you know, being able to become a bird, you know what I mean, and act as a bird. So the stuff that Bran did in what do you call it, Game of Thrones, or you know, this is like the kind of things where, like, what was it, transmorphigation, whatever, in Harry Potter, where, you know, Professor McGonagall could turn into a cat. I mean, these kinds of things were in, like, shaman type things to do, sorcerer type things to do. So in The Last Jedi, when Luke Skywalker is able to fight Kylo Ren and not be there, that was so awesome to me. But the amount of Jedi-ness and power it would take to do that would make it so that you had basically nothing left. And Luke had to know that. He had to have planned it. He had to have foreseen it. He had to have understood that he was probably going to die if he did what he did, but not be struck down. So everything he did was a choice. And I do believe that a lot of people saw that as giving up. Like as if he had committed suicide or something, which I can't for the life of me, I can't for the life of me get that interpretation. I know that people think that, I don't know, I just can't fathom watching that movie and thinking he gave up. You know, becoming one with the Force on purpose is not giving up. It's not ending your life because you relinquished your meat suit as a human doesn't mean you've ended your existence. Obviously, again, Force ghosts, if you understood the concept of Force ghosts, they're not ghosts, they're not dead, they didn't cease to exist. They stepped into the other reality, they crossed over into another plane of existence. They're still there, they interact. That's why Yoda was able to do things that, you know what I mean? Now, why was he able to do that and he wasn't able to do it before? Why was Luke suddenly able to fight remotely, as remote viewing would be? Why was Princess Leia able to save herself from that blast. Because 9 million years went by since Return of the Jedi. And they weren't just sitting there waiting for people to watch what they were doing again. These characters existed in the time that went on. So they had time to Han and Leia had time to have a kid, raise it, have it turn to crap. You know, do you think they just sat there and, did nothing else? Of course, Leia did some kind of work with the Force. Whether Luke taught her anything or she just, lived as a Force-sensitive human for all those years, learning to do things or just intuitively being able to do stuff. I mean, come on, time went by. So when the blast happened and she was obviously able to preserve herself so that she could come back to, and maintain herself at a level that she could be brought back. This is what people do. I mean, you've seen magicians like David Blaine do things where they go to extreme measures and they, live in a block of ice or whatever, and they do things to push human endurance beyond anything, normal. This is all the same thing. So to me, it made perfect sense for Leia to do that. Don't give me, oh, she's in space, this should have happened to her. That's not the point. The point is mind over matter, let's say, okay? Mind over matter. So, I loved all that Force stuff with Leia, with Luke, I loved all of it. There's a scene where Rey goes and there's like all those mirrors. Like I said, that I swear is from Splinter the Mind's Eye, and I don't remember why. I know that because I was like, did I have that book? I don't remember, but I remember thinking there was a thing with a bunch of mirrors with some kids. It's weird, but so there were references that, to me, Rian Johnson knew what he was talking about. He understood, what Jedi were supposed to be in terms of being basically, like spiritual warriors who will use what's basically thought of as sorcery nowadays to, this stupid alarm. So the Force is, something it limits us, it binds us, it binds the galaxy together, you know what I mean? It's something you use, it's an energy force, it's something that you can study, and it's magic. So these people are able to do magic. They are sorcerers. They are able to do these things, and what we saw in the other films was just, scratch the surface of what humans have tried to do, So, when I saw this, I thought it was amazing. I thought it was great. I thought the way Luke Skywalker went out was perfect. Now, what happened subsequently in the next movie, which was J.J. Abrams trying to retcon what Rian Johnson had retconned, trying to retcon the retcon of his own movie and put it back to whatever stupid crap he intended it to be. But the way The Last Jedi was, it was perfect to launch into another film. Like I said, there was that obvious connection between Kylo and Rey, and it didn't have to be romantic. It could have just been anything. They could have been, I don't know, like a previous being. Like, it could have been that the Force was like some previous being had split into two, or there was just a vergence in the Force that they shared, or something, something that connected them, and it would have been easy to do. And it was obvious that she was supposed to be related to somebody. They kept making that bond with Leia, which could have easily played out. There was no reason why it had to become convoluted, or there had to be, like I said, a romantic relationship. That scene in the throne room, that fight, I guess you call it the throne room. I'm just calling it the throne room. Um, was just amazing. It was so beautiful, and the whole film, The Last Jedi, was really beautiful to look at. In terms of the other characters and stuff, um, there was nothing. I mean, there wasn't too much to complain about. Benicio has been my co-favorite actor since The Usual Suspects. He, so I'm used to his shenanigans. If anything, he could have taken it down a notch, but because it's a Star Wars movie. But the thing with that character is that I foresaw, I have foreseen that it was pretty obvious to me at the end of that film that if any normal person continued and picked up where it left off, that character could have been a version of the Han character where he's nefarious and he's out for the money and he was taking no sides and could have come back to help because he would have been somebody who, with their position, as being just basically a smuggler, an arms dealer, whatever, he could have been vital in some future thing, but whatever. Captain Phasma, I mean, that's Gwendolyn Christie. She was hired to be big and strong and badass, and she's not a great actress or anything. She's an actress. She does her job. She's, so she was there to be cool, and she was cool. I liked Rose. I know a lot of people hate Rose. I don't know why people hate Rose. If you watch the movie and then you decide it's about putting certain types of people in certain types of roles to send a message, and that bugs you, I guess, but I didn't see it that way. I was just like, I like Rose. John Boyega, I don't dislike John Boyega. I'm not a fan of him either. He reminds me of Matt Damon. So it's like if Matt Damon was in Star Wars, he's like that. I had seen Attack the Block a long time ago, so, he's alright. And, Oscar Isaac, I like Oscar Isaac. Poe's fine. Laura Dern, her hair's purple. It didn't need to be purple. That's those kind of cheap Star Wars things they've always done where they just give somebody blue nail polish or purple hair or something to make them seem otherworldly, and it's like, it's just hair. Instead of going out of their way to put a bunch of makeup and, prosthetics on somebody, just dye their hair purple. But she was the inept leader, because we have inept leaders. That's how the world works. I can't see a lot of problems with that movie. That's why I just sit there and I go, I don't know why people hate it. I thought it was great. Like I said, it was all about the Force. That's why I loved it so much, because the Force is my thing. If you just want to see climactic battles and stuff, and for me, I kind of get lost when it's time for battle scenes and, the space battles and stuff. I'm like, yeah, okay. They're going on. But otherwise, what else was there? Oh, yeah, the one horrible thing. Domhnall Gleeson. I've said in previous videos of mine how I have an issue with Hollywood nepotism. Now, this is the key about this movie. You have an example of why I hate it in Domhnall Gleeson and whatever he was doing, but then you have the opposite side, where you have Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher, who is the best of Hollywood nepotism, where you actually do get somebody who is even better than her parents were. So, there's two sides to that coin as well. But in the case of Domhnall Gleeson, I mean, I don't know why he made the choice to be a caricature of a feckless leader. I mean, why he went that way. And this, you can say, okay, this is where you can say, okay, maybe Rian Johnson, I think he probably tried to do what Woody Allen and Clint Eastwood are known to do, where they just, instead of overly directing their actors. They hire the actor that they think is best for the job. They hire a good actor and they let them do their thing. But sometimes you have to rein people in. And in the case of Domhnall Gleeson, that definitely should have been corrected. But, and like I said, maybe Benicio needed to be told to take it down a notch. Because like I said, it's a kid's movie. It's not, I don't know if the kids knew what the hell he was doing. But in the case of Domhnall Gleeson, that was just embarrassing. If I was his father, I'd be like, oh, he's not mine. He's from the milkman. Because I don't know how Domhnall Gleeson watches that and says, oh yeah, I did a great job. I love my performance in The Last Jedi. So there were a few things where it's like, I can see people having, these kind of complaints. But to hate the whole movie, and like I said, the idea that Luke gave up, I'll never understand that. I'll never understand that there's the problem with that character. That Mark Hamill had a problem with it. It just floors me, because it's like, I don't know how he wanted to go out, because if he wanted to go out in a blaze of glory, as far as I'm concerned, he did. That was the most amazing blaze of glory. To fight and defeat another practitioner of the Force remotely and choose to go into the Force, much like Neo went into the Source, it's badass. I mean, I don't know. So just the whole interpretation that Luke crapped out, even coming from Mark Hamill, I don't know what Mark Hamill wanted instead. And for me, his hatred of his own movie, or his disgruntledness, or whatever it was, led a bunch of people to hate a movie that they may have liked. Or, you know what I mean? To start to nitpick a movie that it didn't need to be nitpicked if you didn't understand it. And at the end, the little boy could use the broom with the Force, and that set it all straight, because it should have never been hereditary, because there's no such thing. There's no such thing as certain specified people being able to be more spiritual than other people. That's terrible. That's a terrible idea. But it was an idea that got left behind a long time ago. So to retcon it back in the next Fakakta movie, I can't even remember the title. Rise of Skywalker, right? That's what it was. I watched it once. I haven't watched it since. I won't watch it again. I mean, if you take somebody who grew up on Star Wars and you make a movie that they never want to watch again, I mean, come on. Anyway, to retcon it and make it to retcon the retcon and make it that she's a baby of a clone of a thing, so that was so completely absurd and convoluted. And that movie in itself should mean that somebody should call to have everybody's head examined who thought that was okay. But The Last Jedi on its own was great. Had Rian Johnson done 7, 8, and 9, could have been great. The problem, in my opinion, was what J.J. Abrams decided to do in terms of just redoing the original trilogy and taking us so far into the future into a whole new Empire type situation with the First Order. Just because you can't be original, you can only do what you've seen before. I mean, if you remake Star Trek and you come on to Star Wars, and Super 8 was basically a amalgam of all the movies we saw as kids. I mean, there's homage, and there's there's no new art in the way that people have to be influenced by other things, but to just have to copy and to that degree when you have a whole galaxy you could come up with. And if you really didn't know what to do, you could have just asked the master and said, okay, George, what was your original plan? We'll do that. We'll just stay home, organize your flannel shirts, let us handle the actual execution, but just tell us what you were going to do and then we'll do that. If you really don't have an original thought in your head, do that. But that's why I think The Last Jedi is great. I think he had his own vision. Like I said, the Force was the star of that movie. It was amazing to me of what a Jedi could and should be able to do. He did. Like I said, such power play, such the strongest thing a character's ever done, in my opinion. But like I said, people saw it the exact opposite way, including maybe the actor, which doesn't make sense because then how did he sell it? How did he sit there on that rock and cry, giving up, not giving up at all? Had it followed through, he could have used the Force. He could have been in and out of this world. It could have been anything. Everything was opened up. Rian Johnson opened everything up. And I don't know. I really don't know why people hated it. Like I said, there's nitpicks everywhere. People who don't like the porgs, I like them. People who didn't like Canto Bite. I had no problem with Canto Bite. Like I said, I mean, they always go to some weird place. It happens. So that's why I love The Last Jedi. And I have no problems loving it. And I know that people hate Rian Johnson. And he should have never came out and fought the fans. That was stupid. I thought it was stupid. I thought he made a good movie, so he should have just sat there and said, you know what, I'm going to let it speak for itself. But that he decided to, and I know it's not easy when people on the internet are attacking you and everything, but if he just let the work speak for itself, I don't think we would have been in this mess. I don't know. But, so, he's still getting his trilogy. I think it'll be good. And you know what? Speaking of that, remember how Dan and Dave from Game of Thrones ruined Game of Thrones because they were so obsessed with the idea of doing Star Wars? I don't think they should have got fired from doing Star Wars. Yeah, they totally ruined Game of Thrones at the end. But I don't believe in firing people or ending their stuff. I do feel bad about that. So the idea that people need to not get an opportunity to make something in the future because this thing over here sucked, I don't hold people to that kind of standard. You know what I mean? The Star Wars universe is so massive that there can be so much. You don't have to watch all of it. You don't have to like all of it. I mean, like I said, I never watched any of the cartoon crap. It's not for me. Like I said, I'm a movie person. I watched the movies. That's for me. I play any of the video games. But if somebody tried to tell me I'm not a Star Wars fan when I been trying to be a Jedi for 43 years? I don't know, man. I don't know. I love that movie. May the Force be with you.